So, one of the most popular questions that I get asked is if the sudden loss and tragic event that took Bo is harder, or if the anticipatory grief of knowing what was to come at the end was harder. And sometimes it's asked out loud, of course. I do a lot of public speaking and there are no bad questions. But sometimes it's asked in our own minds. We just compare it in our heads, and I've done this too, because many of us are trying to compare to somebody else's grief because we start to wonder if we are even allowed to hurt this much, if your situation grants that much hurt, if you are grieving the right way, or if you should be further along in the process. So, today I want to talk to you about why grief feels so different depending on how loss arrived at your doorstep. And I'm going to explain why neither loss is easier. So, a grief comparison usually isn't about judgment. I think it's more about confusion. It's our way of trying to understand why our bodies are feeling the way that they feel, but also why some days may feel unbearable and why other people seem to be coping differently. You may think to yourself, like, oh, she's doing great. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. But it isn't shaped by our circumstances, it's shaped by the experience itself. And the way that loss entered our life matters more than people realize. So, anticipated loss will come with time, essentially, theoretically. Time to prepare, you get time to think about it, you have time to say things that matter most. There can be moments of meaning along this journey. You have moments of presence, and you get moments of a choice in the matter, right? But it also comes with something else, and that is a prolonged state of stress. You are living in waiting, living in uncertainty. You're living with a constant awareness of what is to come. And the body doesn't get to rest. So our nervous system will constantly stay on alert. So anticipatory grief does not soften loss, it stretches it out. And when the loss finally does happen, the body may already be exhausted. So let's talk about sudden loss now. Sudden loss is different. There is no warning, there's no preparation, you don't get any time, and there is no emotional consent. Your nervous system is shocked, and the brain will struggle to catch up to your reality. And people often describe feeling numb or disoriented or like you're living in a fog. And there is a deep sense of just disbelief. Now, you can also have that with anticipatory grief. It could still be a disbelief that they are finally gone. So, if you feel this way with sudden loss, like you are just in disbelief, it's because your mind just didn't have the time to understand what was happening. So, sudden loss doesn't give your body time to prepare your heart. So, to touch on my story a little bit, I understood very early on when I was pregnant with Bo there was something wrong with him. And when he was born, I learned very quickly that life doesn't always happen in the order that we expect it to. I was young, 19 years old, and I had just delivered my baby. And instead of being focused on recovery of my C-section or celebration that I brought this new baby into the world, instead of getting cuddles and getting to hold him, he was in a completely different unit, and I was sitting there in a hospital bed having conversations about survival. And the doctors were very honest with me. I remember being told that some babies come into this world only to say hello and then they say goodbye. And in that moment, death stopped being abstract. Death was no longer something that was far away from me. It was right here at my doorstep. And so we ended up choosing to move forward with the full open heart surgery to fight to give Bo a chance so that he could have as much time as he could. And these choices, they ended up giving us time. But my experience and everything that I went through, everything that I was told, also taught me something very important. And that is, even when a loss is anticipated, even when you understand what may happen, grief still arrives with its full force. Understanding doesn't protect you from the pain that will follow. Love doesn't make loss any easier. And having time doesn't mean that your nervous system won't still struggle when everything changes. Anticipated loss and sudden loss affect grief differently, but neither is easier. One is going to stretch pain over time, and the other shocks your system. One may allow for meaning while your loved one is still here, while the other one will often delay that much later, and you will have to deal with that alone without that person here. So both leave the body and the heart trying to adapt to reality. And when we compare them, we add something extra, and that is shame. A comparison of grief can sound like, at least you had time. At least it wasn't sudden. Others have it worse. Well, you had a baby who died before he turned 2, so it shouldn't be that bad because you didn't have that much time with him. But comparing doesn't heal our grief. It just adds shame. And shame keeps the nervous system activated. An activated nervous system, as we spoke about in previous videos, you can't rest, you can't process things, you can't integrate that loss. And so grief isn't measured by our circumstance, it's measured by the impact. If your grief feels chaotic or if your grief is feeling prolonged, that doesn't mean that you're stuck. It means that your body is responding to the way loss entered your life. There is no correct way to grieve. There is only the way that your own system has learned how to survive. Next week, I want to talk about something that many grieving people carry quietly, and that's the belief that doing everything humanly possible should have protected you from this pain, or why control can feel comforting in grief, but it often fails us because grief isn't about what we did or what we didn't do. It's about learning how to live in a world that changed without our consent.